Welcome to another Resort Trades learning event. Even with COVID lockdowns at an end, employers are still witnessing a seismic shift when it comes to recruitment. Well, today we're fortunate to have a digital strategist with us who has a proven track record. You're really going to get a lot out of this. She's going to share with us 3 ways that employers can have the best shot at finding the right long-term employee. And job seekers are going to get a lot out of this too. So welcome. So like to welcome you. And we also are very happy to have our speaker today, Kelley Ellert with Digital Caffeine. Welcome, Kelley.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you for having me. Thank you for everyone attending.
Yes, I'm Sharon Scott Wilson. I'm publisher of Resort Trades magazine. Listeners who are involved in resort and hospitality, hopefully you received this. And if not, I would ask you to go on to resorttrades.com and sign up at least for our members e-newsletter. So at any rate, Kelley, we're grateful to have you with us. And I know you've prepared a wonderful session. So I will go ahead and sit back and let you take over.
Oh, thank you. I'll try to not ramble too much and keep it along the presentation, but I will get started. I really appreciate you having me here today. And so my presentation today, it really focuses on 2 things, on 2 elements out of the title. I put the definition of attract on here because that's what you're doing is you have to draw them in by appealing to their emotions and senses. So that's what a lot of this is about, is how to draw them in and how to draw in the right employees, because drawing in 100 applicants doesn't get you the right employee. And you have to bring in the right applicants to end up with the right employee for the right position. So that's really what this is about. And these tips work for small companies, small resorts, if they only have, 1 person that they're sporadically trying to hire, or if it's a larger corporation that is constantly trying to hire a lot of the same people. These tips can be kind of implemented for either one, small, large, medium, everything in between. So the need for this. So why is it necessary to consider a digital advertising strategy or digital strategy when, you have all of these options out there? You've got Ziprecruiter and Indeed and Career Builder, and you've got all these sites that you can post job openings on. So why is something outside of these needed for your recruitment strategy? And there's several reasons. One is bad hires cost money. It costs money in that lost money from high turnover. And then it also costs money. There's a Gallup study that found that disengaged employees cost companies about $550 billion a year. So there's a huge loss if you're hiring poorly. And right now, since COVID, since, open communication, the internet, the economy, everything has resulted right now we're in a candidate-driven market. And when you're in a candidate-driven market, that means the burden is on the company to put in more effort to attract the right employees. You're not just going to cast a wide net out on these platforms like Monster and Glassdoor, and the perfect employees are going to swim into it. Candidates are driving the market, so you have to be doing things that attract them to you. And that's what a lot of this is about. And the opposite ways you can attract them to you instead of just depending on these sites is basically all of the internet. It's social media platforms, it's apps, it's websites, it's anything and everything that Google is connected to. It's programmatic display advertising. And then really specifically, it's specific job boards for your industry or niche, like resort trades and golf course trades have job boards. That is a lot more detailed and segmented and gets you closer to finding the right employees and really, really refining your candidate pool than just throwing it out on all these sites. Unfilled jobs are a major concern for employers, and a lot of companies, especially smaller ones, really solely rely on these sites, and it's just not very good. So how can you not rely on these and do some of the other things? It's through digital advertising, in my opinion. Like I said, I'm a digital advertiser, so a lot of my time is spent getting companies leads for their business, but that also means getting leads for their applicant pool for certain positions that they're looking to fill. The internet is a good place to find what you're looking for, whether that's employees, customers, opportunities. It's all out there. You just have to figure out how to find it, where to find it, and just the how, the where. So why digital advertising? One, you're reducing your reliance on these job boards. Single platform reliance can backfire overnight. Anybody in the resort industry that remembers, there was an OTA thing that just literally went away overnight. I can't even remember what it's called now. But these platforms, they can change their algorithm. They can change their policies. They can decide to blacklist a company due to any type of thing that happened. So relying on a single platform, just like anything in life, you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. A company should never be depending solely on these job board sites. The biggest reason why is that they dump a high volume of junk leads into the candidate pool. There's a lot of reasons why. For example, one time I was hiring for a marketing assistant. And so the post had drive and traffic in it. I'm sure it was stuff about, driving traffic to websites, driving engagement on social media platforms. But we're going through all these resumes. We get flooded with resumes and it's really exciting. It's like, oh, look at all these people applying for this marketing assistant position. And then I just started to notice a trend that very few of them had marketing experience. Very few of them had corporate experience. Almost every single one of them were truck drivers. I noticed a lot of truck drivers. There were some Uber drivers in there. There was a lot of drivers. And I realized that the algorithm that had kind of automatically submitted a bunch of candidates that were in the system and had their resumes uploaded to be submitted, if they had truck driver on there, the algorithm was seeing truck driver and then drive and traffic. And it really thought that they were a match, even though these people had no desire to be marketers. They could have been trained to be marketers if they had a desire to. So you don't want to, not include somebody because of their experience. But at the same time, if you're getting experience that's like, this is in no way aligned, it's not showing any interest in somebody that wants to sit behind a computer and do this. So that's kind of the problem of the high volume. And then you add to that, people blindly just go and sit there and they apply to jobs to fill government benefits obligations. They're required to apply for so many jobs. Because they're required to apply for a job does not mean they're motivated, does not mean they're going to show up for an interview. It does not mean that if they interview, they're going to accept a job, because they probably accepted a whole bunch. And then add to that, most people who are really engaged trying to find a job and they're qualified and they're submitting applications for jobs that they're qualified for, studies show that they're off the market in 10 days. So if you also only rely on these platforms, the people who are motivated, it's very competitive for them. They're most likely applying for 30 other jobs a day that also meet their experience and their desires. And so now you're going to be in either a bidding war or just a scheduling nightmare trying to get them in there, because they may have lined up 10 interviews and they're going to negotiate with a lot of confidence. Making your recruiter's time inefficient and your interviewer's time inefficient. You can either weed through 200 bad resumes and there's 10 in there that are good, or you can have a bucket of 30 with 10 good ones. That's a way more efficient use of time to possibly even find better candidates to reduce the reliance. And then I also really tout digital advertising for the same reason that it works in normal marketing to find customers, is there's targeting and customization. Take, for example, if you're a resort in Maine, and let's say your best employee to be a housekeeper is gas prices are expensive. It's a lower paying job. You probably need somebody that lives within 10 miles of your resort. Well, if you throw out the job posting on these sites, it's going to go across the world, basically anywhere somebody's looking. And so somebody in Indiana can apply and hope that you're going to pay their moving expenses to move to Maine, or maybe they don't realize it's in Maine, or maybe they live, 2 hours away and they're hoping to drive in. But you've got to have all these conversations to figure that out. But maybe if you just started your search in a 10-mile radius, which you can do with digital advertising on just about any platform, you can narrow in the geolocation. You can get employees. You can start your search with the employees that are the best fit. And for a job like that, like a housekeeper in a resort area where it's expensive to live, that's a good place to start. There might be somebody out there motivated to be a housekeeper that's right down the road. So start there. It's more efficient, it's more cost effective, and you're most likely going to end up with a better employee. And then you meet them online. You find the people on the platforms, on the websites, on all that stuff that they're using. So now I'll get into the 3 steps. And the 3 steps are, now that you want to do this, you want to use digital advertising, how do you do it? So step 1 is you have to define the perfect hire. You can't find something, you can't identify something if you don't know what you're looking for. So I always recommend the first step is you want to figure out who is a perfect hire for this. And I really, really encourage people when they're hiring to go deeper than experience and degree. I mean, the US government is doing it. Google is doing it. Google is retraining formerly incarcerated people to give them tech experience and developer and programmer experience. The state of Maryland in just March of this year dropped bachelor degree requirements for thousands of jobs in the state. So as of this year, there are thousands of jobs available in Maryland that if you didn't have a bachelor's degree or higher, you previously would have not been qualified for that job. Well, now they're realizing we're cutting out a lot of qualified people who have the skills that we need. We have the training infrastructure to train them on the skills we need, but we need to hire for the soft skills. And so when you're defining perfect hire, yes, there are going to be some experience things you need. I mean, if you're hiring an attorney, yes, they have to have a law degree. So a degree matters in that case. But a degree and experience do not make someone successful. Somebody can have a leadership title on their resume at one company, and then they move to another company, and because of the culture or the industry, they may not be a good fit there. So you really have to go deeper than experience and degree. And that comes from soft skills. And soft skills are really important. A 2019 study actually found, and I would guess that these have gotten even more important since 2019. But in 2019, it found that 89% of recruiters said that soft skills were what were lacking in bad hires. So what that tells me as a marketer, as companies are really struggling to identify what is actually needed when they're hiring. They're looking at experience, they're looking at degrees, but they're not identifying and defining the soft skills needed at the front. And it's causing them to make bad hires, people who don't fit in company cultures, people who maybe don't work well under a specific boss, people who aren't a good fit for the stress level that particular industry determines. All these things should be taken into account. In the US, the top in-demand soft skills are resilience, stress tolerance, adaptability, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, originality, reasoning, problem solving, leadership and social influence, active learning, curiosity, accountability, reliability, discipline, initiative taking. Now, almost all of these are incredibly hard to find when just reviewing a resume for experience. So you have to define them here so that you can create an application process that is able to identify these skills in people. For example, I know a lot of people will look at a resume and see that if somebody's been with a company for 20 years, that must mean that they're accountable, they're reliable, and they've got discipline. So they hit soft skill number 8 dead on. But that doesn't necessarily mean that. That could mean they got in a job with a boss that was a friend or something, and they skated by for 20 years, and now that person's gone, or leadership changed, or something happened, and now they're looking for a new job. So there's so much information that can be lost or inferred or assumed when you only gauge something based on somebody's experience and degree, and you don't really pinpoint what's important and then figure out how to identify that. So really, really important step here is to figure out what soft skills will make a successful employee in that position, in your company culture. And then, so once you've defined them, now you need to figure out the best way to honestly describe the opportunity and capture their attention. And this is kind of a two-parter. The first thing you need to look at is you need to prioritize and refine your direct website application experience. And then this is everything an applicant sees and does between finding your job and hitting the apply button. And CAST, they gauge a lot of web behavior. They estimate that 92% of candidates who click apply never submit an application. So that's very telling that there is somewhere in the application process that things break down for people. So you have to refine that application process to motivate and make it seamless and streamlined from somebody to get to discovery to hitting apply and actually submitting their application. And one thing that I've seen a lot of memes online for this is application experiences that allow you to upload your resume. Your resume uploaded, you think, oh, that was nice. That was a breeze to apply. And then you hit the next button. And now they want you to manually type in your resume. That's not a streamlined application experience. It's actually, I would guess, a lot of the reason that 92% of applicants don't hit apply, because they say, I'm not retyping everything that I just submitted. And even though those standardized forms can be nice for companies, if you're getting 200 resumes and you need to weed through them, you'll understand a lot more about an applicant by seeing the resume that they fully designed and wrote and didn't fill in from a form. Maybe they have certain things on there that aren't on your form, like volunteer experience or really good organizational skills that you see in the interesting or unique way that they laid it out. I mean, if you can let somebody upload their resume and you're not so bombarded with applications that you can get away from having those standardized forms for their job history and their volunteer work and their education, it really, really makes the applicant experience better. And in a candidate-driven market, that matters more than your ease of weeding through everybody. Something, if you're interested in this, a page I encourage everybody to check out is Pinterest's careers website. I think it's careers.pinterest.com, or if you just Google Pinterest careers. And I've got some screenshots on here. Their whole kind of microsite for careers looks like, and it's split by opportunity. It's like work from home, contract work, apprenticeship and development programs. And then when you click on one of those, you get a whole page dedicated to, like, it shows somebody who is in their apprenticeship program and it shows their career trajectory from there. It shows all the overviews really specific to these programs. So they're gearing all their content towards people who would be interested in the apprenticeship programs and people who they want to capture. If you're interested and you make it through all the content and you still apply, odds are you are a significantly better candidate than all of the people who randomly saw it on Indeed and instantly submitted their resume. And in the same regard, you should look at the places where people visit that are in an industry. So like the resort trades and golf trades, they have classified listings on there. If you list on there, you're not getting the volume of leads that you're going to get from Indeed. But what you are getting are people who are engaged enough in the resort or golf industry to read a trade publication. And if they're reading a trade publication, that's already displaying some of those soft skills that now you don't even have to help pinpoint. Do they have passion? Do they have interest in it? I mean, they've come across the trade publication at some time, so they most likely have experience in it, and they have a desire to stay in it because they're reading it there, they're applying for a job there. So whatever industry you're in, if you have specific publications, specific websites that support your industry, you can also work with them to see how can you get your job opportunities out there and get the right people. And then so there's your application experience. And then there's also job descriptions that you write to get people. And I absolutely love this example. It's well known as one of the best examples of copywriting. And the reason why is because it says men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful. So who wants to do that job? This is for an expedition to Antarctica. That's what this job posts for. Who wants to do that? Who wants to go to Antarctica and deal with all that stuff and most likely not ever return? Well, there are people who do it, and those people are motivated by honor and recognition. So that's what this ad has, is it has the motivators, honor and recognition. So the only people that are going to apply are the people who are already willing to deal with those issues for that motivator. So by putting it out there and describing the opportunity honestly and saying, this is what your day is going to look like. This is what you're going to deal with. If you're upfront about that, but you also speak to what's the good thing. Take housekeepers, for example. That's not an overly desirable job. It's a very hard job. It can be a very thankless job at times, and you need a certain person who has specific motivators. It might be somebody who needs a dependable schedule. They need reliable hours. They don't care what days or times they work, but they need it to be consistent every day. Those are things that motivate someone to stay in a job that you can speak to. Don't call a job flexible if it's not flexible because it's trendy right now. So when you're describing your opportunity, really, really talk to the supervisors, talk to the managers, figure out what they're going to be doing on a daily basis and describe it accurately. And then also really think about who would be willing to do this and do it happily and enjoy it, and then speak to that motivator as well. So now you've described the opportunity. Now the next step is, how do you get people to find this opportunity and see your description and your landing pages that have it all laid out? Which is step 3, which is to connect with them online. To connect with them online, you first have to identify where they are and how to get their attention. And this is going to differ for every job, for every company, anywhere. That's why the time is really spent on the strategizing to figure out, where are they? How do I get in contact with them? What are their interests? How do I pinpoint them? And then how do I create messages that connect with them? Because remember, we're attracting them. So attracting is appealing to their emotions, to their interests, and getting them to come to you. So once you've outlined the perfect candidate, you know the exact kind of motivators, the exact kind of things they're going to have to deal with, you know the soft skills that you really, really need out of this person, and now you have to connect with them online. So things to brainstorm, stuff like, what websites do they use? Again, if there's trade websites, you can target those trade websites. You can partner with those trade websites. Anything that has like these niche job boards like resort trades and golf court trades have, you can use that to find better candidates than you can through just throwing it out there on Ziprecruiter. So what websites do they use? Not only can you partner with them, but there's ways that you can target people who visit certain websites. So it doesn't have to be listed specifically. Let's say you're in an industry that has trade publications, but they don't have an online job board. Well, it's still important to identify those websites and publications, because there's ways that you can then use that to identify your audience and target them through programmatic media and Google, all kinds of ways. What social media platforms do they frequent? An example I use here is if you're hiring programmers, developers, engineers, very technical minded people, most likely try Reddit. That's going to be a good place that a lot of people who have that technical mind, they're always looking for answers to questions. They're collaborating on like programming issues, coding language. This is obviously not my forte, so I'm not one of those minded people. So I don't use Reddit very often. I know a lot of people who are engineers and whatnot, they use Reddit. They love it. I am a creative type, so I use Pinterest. If you're hiring graphic designer, you can advertise that opportunity on Pinterest. Like, you can use any of these platforms. Facebook, Google, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great for if you're hiring leadership positions. Maybe if you're hiring like an entry-level position, that can use LinkedIn, depending on what experience you do need for it. But if you're hiring maintenance techs and housekeepers, they may not be on LinkedIn, but you got to figure out what social media platforms do they use and find them there. What influencers or social accounts do they follow? Again, this is a really good way to target people. Let's say you need a maintenance technician. If you can identify people who already in their social networks, let's say they follow Bob Vila, that might be aging me from this old house, but they follow Bob Vila, they follow, I don't know, who's ever influencers in the like woodworking space right now, like people who are on social media who are posting tips and tricks for different woodworking stuff. Well, that's probably a maintenance person that's going to be a lot more passionate than somebody that just randomly saw an ad and was like, yeah, I can do maintenance. No, they're actually have an interest in working with their hands and tools and stuff like that. So it's really, really beneficial to sit down and take time and say, if I want somebody passionate about this, what social accounts are they following? What influencers are they listening to? That's probably a lot more passionate person than someone who just applied for a job. What outside interests do they have? There's a lot of different interests that can kind of overlap now. I've heard this before. leaders are readers. So you're hiring a leadership position. Maybe reading should be an interest that you're looking for. And if you target things like BookBub and Inc.com, Fast Company, like these publications that if people read them, they're most likely have a leadership mindset. They may not have leadership experience on their resume because they may be reading about it a lot. They may be trying to learn about it. They may be waiting for that right opportunity, but you can find interests like reading that might make sense for the opportunity. And then what matters to them? Really, really important to figure out what matters to somebody, especially if you're hiring for difficult positions. If you're hiring for an executive position, you're going to have a lot of people with a lot of experience and a lot of, wherewithal through the application process to apply for it. But if you're struggling to hire front desk people, housekeepers, maintenance techs, janitors, drivers, all of these jobs that there's people out there that are willing to do it. There's people out there who want to do it. But you have to figure out what matters to them. And it may not be what matters to the job. It may not be that they care about making sure that every hotel room is spotless, but they may be supporting a child as a single parent and they really need reliability and they really need stability. And that is what matters to them. And that's what motivates them. And that's what's going to keep them coming to that job day after day. So when you figure out what matters to people, you can figure out how to ensure that that job is going to meet their lifestyle demands. And if the job meets their lifestyle demands, you've already got a better fit for an employee, a right fit for what motivates them, basically. And then again, I mentioned this earlier, but with any of these platforms, you can target so specifically with geolocation. I mean, you can get people who are already in your geographic area. So you're not weeding through all these resumes trying to figure out, like, I don't know, it says they live in California. Do they want to move? Did they just not update it before they sent it? And they actually live right down the street. You can't tell that a lot of times. But if you only advertise to people who are within that space, then it's highly likely that those resumes are going to make more sense to you. I was going to let people know, because no matter what, if you're one resort or you're a bigger company, kind of the ways, a little bit of tips on how you can implement this. There's more details in the article. So if you go to Resort Trades, I believe they posted a link to it. If you read that article, there's a lot more detail on how to implement some of these. And there's a lot of outside resources and articles linked from there as well. So that's one way. I've developed kind of a 30-page guide that really expands more on this. It's got more examples for more industries and stuff like that. So feel free to email me or reach out to me on LinkedIn if you're interested in that guide. And that really goes down with it further. And then if you're looking for help on something like this, whether you're like a small business or a large business, I mean, you can hire an agency, like the one I work with, to do all of this for you, come up with the strategy, manage the ads, build the landing pages, do all of that. You can also just consult with an agency and say, we need to know what a plan for this would look like. Can you help us? And then you can make the decision, implement it, don't implement it, what you want to do. So lots of different options here. It all starts with strategizing to me. I'm a strategist, so that's what I believe is very important. But if you strategize, every plan is going to look different. What position you're hiring, what your company culture is, your strategy absolutely looks different. But you have to figure out what your strategy is.
Very good, Kelley, really loaded with information. And someone hire a person like yourself and to just come and train them and just walk them through the strategy or help them create it. What do you?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's all really about flexibility, because jobs are different. And that's part of one of the issues with job boards is they tried to efficient and streamline things to a level that it takes out personalization. And the main trend you see in digital marketing right now is you need personalization, and you need to figure out how to personalize your messages, your social media. All of it has to be really, really personal. You can't just blast things out there and expect results. And so it's kind of the same when you're working with somebody to come up with this stuff. It's all personal based on what your needs are. Let's say you're a major company like a Pinterest, or you're a large management company or something, and you're constantly hiring housekeepers in different geographies. Like you've got different locations, so it's a location-based position, but you're one company and you're hiring them all out there. Well, you can streamline that process. So whatever geolocation you're hiring for, you have a specific process that you've developed for housekeepers, because the same soft skills are going to be needed. There might be some different soft skills needed based on the manager or the, all about customizing
It has to
stuff.
be highly customized, right?
It has to be highly customized,
very,
yes.
I imagine working with someone such as yourself would be highly collaborative, and you can do it online. I mean, they don't have to necessarily live in your town or next door. Yeah, or visit your office. If one thing COVID has done for us, it has opened the world to people being able to network and communicate. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much you did a substantial amount of work for this, but we really appreciate, and Kelley's been a frequent contributor to Resort Trades. So for that, we thank you too.
A lot of the same stuff goes for golf courses. What makes a really good groundskeeper? What makes somebody, so you want somebody who is some way passionate about it. Like you don't want somebody who's just taking a job to take a job, unless you're okay with that there being a high turnover position. If you really don't want it to be high turnover and you really want somebody who's passionate about it, think about what makes a successful groundskeeper at a golf course. They like golf. There are a million ways that you can target golfers, through publications, through interest, through brands they follow, through if they follow Tiger Woods or Dustin Johnson. Like, I mean, there are a million different ways that a golf course could think, who really likes golf enough to want to come to a golf course and be super excited about it
and work there
7
and go out and run the mower
exactly.
or shape the bunker or whatever they're going to be doing. And now Carrie Van Dever is co-owner of Golf Course Trades. So
congratulations. Thank you. And Carrie's a great example of the soft skill of learning and curiosity in marketing, especially if you work in any type of marketing and communications. The way we communicate changes so frequently. I'm proud of my degree. I love my degree, but I very little use it. You have to constantly be learning in this. So if you've got a communicator, a marketer, a PR person, that's the kind of thing you're hiring for, and you're hiring just based on their degree, that really doesn't matter much. Because
nobody uses press releases anymore, for example.
The way that you write a press release has changed drastically since I learned to write them in college. So it's like, but Carrie's a perfect example. I mean, I believe her background is in graphic design, but she had the soft skill of curiosity, and she's learned all of these other communications.
We actually, just between us, we call her our resident genius.
Yeah.
Because she also has a lot of brains.
Yeah. And I guarantee you, it's very, very hard to find curiosity on a resume unless you know that you're looking for it from the get-go. And then you can make maybe like skills assessments that test for it. And these can be as short as a couple questions. If you need some standardization in your application process, I urge people to not put the standardization in for employment and job history, and put the standardization in on skills assessments. Like, we really need someone creative. You can assess that skill better than you can look at their resume and be like, well, they worked in several positions where I would assume you had to have some creativity, or they write on there, like, I've got creativity. Well, I can say I'm a good engineer, but if you give me a skills assessment, it's going to prove that I'm not a good engineer. So that's how refined and customized I encourage people to be in the process, if they really want to hire the right employees and not just any employee that'll fill the spot at that time. Yeah. And any questions, people are free to email me, find me on LinkedIn. I love talking about this stuff. I think it's interesting, and that's what I like, the customization of it. It means everybody's different. Every situation's different, and you just got to problem solve and strategize what the solution is.
Well, thank you, Kelley. Really appreciate your time.